Oh, hi everyone. I did my chapter presentation on chapter 13, macro system interventions. I'm Drew Holland. So an overview, I'm going to have an introduction. I'm going to talk about practice-based minority research, proposed research agenda, mental health care reform, and multicultural training. Okay, so introduction. Racism occurs in treatment settings that stems from structural problems in American society. So this begins with policies set at higher levels by governments and professional organizations from the training that mental health professionals receive in educational institutions. To overcome this racism in mental health services, professionals must target these wide-ranging forces that reach down from the higher tiers and ultimately influence practices at the local level. Macro system interventions are interventions that aim to make changes that will radiate throughout a given system. So in this particular case, we're talking about the vast network of mental health institutions, such as licensing boards, government regulatory agencies, funding agencies, professional organizations or associations, managed care organizations, and service centers. And all of these institutions have a stake in the success of mental health services delivery. So they're going to be the targets of macro system interventions that I'll be talking about. So practice-based minority research. So the best way to improve practice in any profession is to solidify the knowledge base on which that practice is built. So practice-based research that examines the experiences of minority clients is most likely to alter professional practice and counter the institutional racism of the mental health care system. The U.S. mental health care system needs an infusion of new knowledge that will lead to improved service delivery to ethnic minority clients. So proposed research agenda is, okay, so currently, okay, I have to go over here. So most major theories of counseling and psychotherapy are Eurocentric. And historically, minorities have either been excluded or unaccounted for in the reporting or interpretation of data. Good research is the most important macro system strategy for overcoming institutional racism in the mental health care system. It should be programmatic, theory-driven, culturally valid, and based on operationalized constructs and accumulated knowledge. So the recommendations that Ridley gives in the text is that researchers should use a wide range of research methodologies. They should engage minority communities in their research. They should consider culture in all aspects and phases of research. They should conduct efficacy studies on specific populations, and they should conduct effectiveness studies on specific populations using empirically supported treatments. Okay, so mental health care reform is another macro system intervention aimed at combating institutional racism. It's layers of deeply entrenched policies tied to political and economic needs, which pose a challenge to reform to begin with. So if mental health professionals do not challenge the status quo, the perpetuation of racism in the system is almost guaranteed. And there are 5 themes that are critical to reform of mental health policies, and they are equitable service delivery, data-driven policymaking, proper targeting of resources, flexibility, and partnerships. Reform efforts must consider 3 major dimensions of reform, which are areas of reform, issues of care, and levels of policymaking. Okay, and this is a picture from our textbook in chapter 13, and it's the blueprint for mental health care reform. And it explained that reforms must occur in all 3 areas if the system's racism is to be eliminated. So here we have levels of policymaking at the federal, state, local, and agency level. We have issues of care, availability, accessibility, affordability, accountability, and comprehensiveness. And we have areas of reform, which we have social policy, policy management, and funding. So all three areas need to work together if the racism is to be eliminated in the system. Okay, so multicultural training. So training is a conduit through which mental health professionals can apply the practice-based knowledge we learned about and improve performance of practitioners. So counselors and therapists need to develop multicultural competence in their lives. So that's what we've been learning about all along. Training should be trainee-centered. So the curriculum and trainings should consider the differences of trainees. Training should be developmental. So trainees should learn simple skills before complex ones. Training should be relevant to practice, and training should be outcome oriented. So it should be measurable, observable, attainable, and specific. So in summary, combating institutional racism is the mental health system must be at this level, the macro system level. Policies and procedures that are enacted outside of actual treatment centers are the source of most disparities we see occurring. So all these policies are being formulated at higher levels at government level agencies. Like they're not the day-to-day things we see in mental health care facilities. So each of these three interventions I spoke about has the potential to make service delivery more responsive to minority clients that are being seen now and then hopefully in the future. Lastly, implementing change at the macro system level lays a foundation for change at individual treatment settings or at the microsystem level, which is next chapter. So thanks for listening.